facilities who are only directly like selling to the local market. Some like okay, it is a manufacturing plant from where it is going to different countries also. Okay, then in some facilities where you can have the facility of modifications of the products as required, and in some of the facilities we will be having the R&D facilities also, like the research and development as well. Okay, so these are some of the facilities which are there, but how to choose them was the question. So I saw a particular model, so in which we had four phases. So first one, choose first, have your objective, so what are you looking at. Okay, that is the first thing. Then the second one, choose a particular nation or a country. Okay, so how to choose that? So I have seen like factors where we can have, or factors which are favorable for us. In the sense, as a product or as a company or as a factory, what kind of product I have and what kind of country I need to be in, so that I am getting my raw materials or the resources. Okay, uh, where I may not spend more on getting the resources than utilizing the resources. Okay, like the political or the infrastructure or the technological factors in that particular, or the technological advancements what we can call in the particular region or the country. Okay, so first choose the country, then go to the location, not location, the different cities, for example, I can give you. So different regions. So from the different regions, identify different sites. Then after identifying the different sites, identify the site in which you will be having your factory or the facility of different kind. Okay, so you can start with a small facility where you are just catering the local market. Then you can increase it to the next level where you are producing the products for some other countries as well. So as on the uh, demand of the product increases, so your production capacity also should increase. So simultaneously, it should not be too far. Okay, so it should work somewhere like a particular radius where if you cater, you are not in too much of losses, because as far as you go, the transportation cost will increase. Even though the cost of making a particular factory or building a factory or the facility will be eliminated, but over a period of time, the transportation cost will shoot up more than the cost of the facility, and all, because continuously you have to manufacture and you have to send it to the places where the demand is there. Okay, in some other countries, if the demand is increasing, so we need to have a trade-off. So we need to find out whether we need to transport or we need to have a facility. Okay, so we talked about the responsiveness and the cost of transportation. So those all things are very much there. So here again with respect to those particular phases, so we'll start with the phase number 2, 3, and 4. So there are some models for facility allocation and capacity allocation. This is not kind of a typical models where you are having some diagrams and all. Okay, again a theoretical one where for you guys it is only theoretical, but in general we are taking all the costs quantitatively. That is in terms of numbers. It could be cost, it could be the area that is there, then it could be the distance. So all these things are taken and a particular calculation is being done. Okay, so here for you guys there is no calculation as such. So most of the theory is there. So we are just looking into the theory. We are not going into the quantitative part or the problematic part of these things. Okay, so we are just looking at the theoretical part. So just after the third module, so we'll be looking at what is the syllabus for fourth module. Then I'll be telling you a story, a real life story, where a particular country went from riches to rags. So you might have heard many stories from rags to riches, but it is the other way around here. The whole country, not a particular person or a particular city or a particular location. It was the whole country which went from riches to rags. Okay, so first let us begin with today's class or the today's portion, the last part of module 3, the models for facility allocation and capacity allocation. Okay, a manager's goal when locating facilities and allocating capacity should be to maximize the overall profitability of the resulting supply chain network while providing customers with the appropriate responsiveness. So in the earlier classes also we have looked into these things, like how much of responsiveness should be there and how much of costs should be involved to have that kind of responsiveness. Do you want to be really quick, like within 5 minutes or 10 minutes you want to respond, or you want to take a little bit of time? So like 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours. Again, it depends on the product. Okay, like if you are in the present scenario, if you are manufacturing oxygen or oxygen cylinders, you want to be very near to the consumers, like the hospitals and all. So if you can, well and good. But earlier, the oxygen demand was not to this extent, so nobody would have planned. Okay, hospitals and all, if you see, they are very much inside the city and not outside the city. But this particular plants and also mostly the oxygen is used in the steel plants and all. Okay, for various purposes like cutting, heating. So this particular oxygen is being used as oxidizing agent. Basically, it helps burning better. Okay, as much as oxygen you provide, burning becomes more and more easier. You might be knowing it. So, how can we basically trade off in this? So, in the present situation, yes, you already know there are mobile oxygen manufacturing units which are called as oxygen concentrators. Okay, so you can have these small units even in the hospitals. If this place is there in a hospital, a certain required amount of space. Okay, so there are small oxygen manufacturing plants which would be set up inside that particular hospital. Okay, and it is costing you not that much when you compare it with the life of a particular person and the space availability. That is very much important. So it is okay to spend a bit more money when you are comparing with the life of a person. Okay, so that is where we are saying that we want to maximize the overall profitability, but meanwhile we need to take care of the responsiveness as well. So that's why I'll repeat again, depending upon what kind of product, okay, or what kind of service you are basically providing, you need to trade-off between the profitability. If you are very near, your responsiveness is more, your profitability will decreases because of the overhead costs and the fixed cost involved basically. So what are fixed costs? Fixed and variable cost, you know there are two kinds of costs. Fixed cost is the one where even if you don't produce a single product, okay, so you need to pay all those uh, costs basically. Like the if you are renting a particular building, okay, a particular person has given you a particular building for rent, so he will not like he knows what you are doing basically, but he will not bother whether you are making one product or 10 products or 100 products or thousands. So he is only worried about the amount that you will be giving him, the rent that you will be giving him at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month. Okay, so even if you don't produce even one product, you need to pay the overhead. Okay, it could be like the current bill, so that is the minimum basically if you are not using anything. The minimum meter bill you need to pay, the water bill you need to pay, the rent you need to pay, and there is something called as depreciation. So you are having some machines and all. So as and when time passes, so every year there will be some what you call the price of that particular machine goes down. So similarly, like you might be knowing, not in terms of machines, but in terms of your vehicles. So if you want to buy a second-hand vehicle, or if any one of you is selling a particular vehicle, so what all things are basically seen. So how old, what make it is, okay, which year it was made, so how many kilometers it has run, okay, what is the condition of that particular vehicle. So these things are similarly related to, or you can look into a particular machine as well. So how old is the machine? Okay, how many years it has been produced? Okay, so in general, people try to use a particular machine to the maximum. If you are a person who is manufacturing or something, okay, unless it is like standing there without any work for longer period of time because of lockdown or something, then it is said that okay, it might not be working. But if the factory is running very well, that means you are using a particular machine for a certain number of years, and most of the times it could be used on all the 24 hours, that is all the three shifts. We spoke about the shifts in the previous class. Okay, so that could be there. So what kind of particular machine it is, what is the condition it is in, how many products it can produce per minute or per hour or per day, okay, depending upon the size of the product, okay, and the work it basically does. Then I told you how many hours it has worked. So all these things if you will be taken into consideration, and a particular time comes when it is working fine or not, the value of that particular machine becomes zero. So we call that as a savage value. Okay, savage value in the sense, in general terminology is Gujrika, what we call. Okay, because the depreciation has gone to 100%. Okay, 100% in the sense, it is not worth anything now. This particular life, even you can see like some vehicles, if they go after a certain period of time, so usually 8 to 10 years if they cross, the amount goes very less. Okay, so it is like, okay, you have already recovered the amount of that particular machine, okay, in that particular number of years. So now it is okay if, people say that okay, kitne mein jayega jane do, in the sense they are not bothered about how much they are getting now, so they want to dispose it off. The same thing happens with all the machines. The life, there will be a certain life of a machine. When that life crosses, even if it is fine, okay, some people use it, others what they do, they try to get new machines because new technology would have been there, or the performance of the new machine would be better than this particular machine as it has already run for certain number of years. Okay, so these all comes under the fixed cost. Then variable cost, depending upon the products, how many products you are producing. Okay, the variable cost is like the electricity, how much electricity per product it is being used. So how much of raw material it is using, how many labors are being required there. Okay, so labors, it could be both variable as well as fixed, because after like up to a certain limit it will be fixed. Okay, so if you are hiring 10 people, okay, and you have fixed around 10,000 per month, you need to pay 1 lakh rupees per month. If you give them work, you give them only 1 hour work, 2 hour works, or it is the entire day, I mean allocated day for 8 or 9 hours basically. So still you need to pay 10,000. Or if you are asking them not to do anything, you ask them come and sit, but still then you need to pay 10,000 rupees to them. Again, there will be, these are fixed costs. So for example, you have given a target like per day you need to do so many products. So if any particular person who is more efficient in doing the work and he does more than the numbers allocated to him, then there will be extra paid. Okay, in most of the companies they pay you extra than what was supposed to be paid. Okay, so that extra is a variable cost again. So it is based on how many more parts we will make in the same number of time or the same amount of time. Okay, after he is reaching his particular target number. Okay, so again that is variable now. Then coming to revenues. Revenues come from the sale of product, whereas cost arises from facilities, labor, transportation, material, and inventories. So revenues in the sense, whatever is inflow that is coming by selling the products. Then we need to take off the costs that you have incurred, like the facility cost. I told you the rent if you are like staying in a rented place. Okay, then labor you need to pay. I told you fixed. It would be fixed for a certain time. Then it could be variable. Then transportation. So if you are producing more, you need to have more of raw material. So the inflow will be more. So more of transportation is there. Then as and when you are producing more, you need to sell it. So again, you have to transport those particular materials or products from your facility to the market. Again, the transportation cost increases. Okay, material I told you incoming and outgoing. Then inventories. So as and when you are producing, you are not sending it to the market, right? You need to store it at a particular place. So that is what is inventories are called. So even raw material. So as and when a truck is coming in, you are not directly taking it to the machine. You are checking it. You are finding whether it is meeting the requirements or these dimensions. If any dimensions have to be checked, okay, there is particular QC. Okay, quality control person will be there who will check the product when it is coming in. Okay, it is called as inwarding of a particular product. So as and when a particular uh, raw material or any part of any particular machine comes, it is being kept at the site. A person who is responsible for this particular part will go there, he'll check the required parameters. If everything is okay, he will enter in his system, that is called as inwarding. He'll take that particular part and put in his inventory. Okay, if there is some issue, okay, and a particular product has to be like a part that has come has to be rejected, he will reject and he'll send it back. He will not invert it. Okay, so this is what is inventory. It could be for both the finished products, it could be for products which are in production, okay, and also the raw materials or the spare parts of different machines also. So all this comes under inventories. Then if you are having parts, or if you are basically trying to do some machining work, so you need some tools, and these particular tools are changed frequently, so you'll be having a lot of inventory of these particular tools. Okay, it will break, it will not cut effectively, so it has lost its sharpness. Okay, they'll remove it and they'll insert a new piece, or if required, they'll sharpen it, but till they sharpen they'll not wait. A new piece is being added over there, it is sent for sharpening. As and when sharpening is done, it is moved back to the inventory. Okay, then as and when you want a new cutting tool, you'll go and you'll get that particular cutting tool, and this one, if it has to be discarded, it will be discarded, or it will be sent for regrinding, in the sense to have more of sharpness. Okay, so it is called as regrinding. Then that is done. The profits of the firm are also affected by taxes and tariffs. So here the political what do you call laws come into picture. So how much of tariff is there? So it is again decided by the government of the country. Okay. So if you are importing something, how much import duty has to be there? Okay. So if you are exporting, so basically in India, if you see, they are encouraging the exports. So most of the taxes will not be there. We spoke about the SEZ, special economic zones, where 100% of whatever is produced has to be exported. So there are no taxes like in India. So the similar models might be there in different countries, or they may not be having, because their exports are usually more. They need not have a push, or they need not be like given more facilities to encourage the exports. Okay, but in India, if you see, we are importing more and we are exporting less in comparison. More and less, it could be in comparison to the imports and exports only, and not with any number. So this is called as fiscal deficit. Okay, in economical terms, it is called as fiscal deficit, or in general we call them as deficit. In the sense, your imports are more than your exports, then we are having deficit. Okay, if not, we are in more profits only, we can say, because when you are importing, you need to pay them, right? So importing in the sense is coming from other country. So money from our country is moving to some other country. Okay, so when we are exporting, the money from other countries coming to our country. So if it is matching, well and good. If the exports are more, we are getting more money, then also we are prosperous. But if the other way around happens, that means we are importing more and exporting less. So the money from India is going to some other countries. They are becoming richer and richer. And as we are sending the money from here, we will become poorer and poorer. That doesn't mean exactly, because we are getting it for certain purpose, right? We are producing something and again it might be exported. So that could be the case, or we are just taking it and using it here and finishing it off. So in that case, we will not be having the balance in exports and imports. Okay. So the profits of the firm are affected by taxes and tariffs. Then ideally, profits after tariffs and taxes should be maximized when designing a supply chain network. In the sense, you are earning like profits like anything. Okay, you are earning 60, 70% or 100, 110% of profits. But if the taxes are more, if the taxes are 80, 90%, so what is the use of it? So you are only left with 10% or 20% of your total profits. Okay, so that will not work. So even you need to check with the political like the stability is one. Okay, plus what is the law of the land? So how much of taxes to be paid? Okay, like in Saudi Arabia and all the Middle East nations. So in many places they are not having any taxes, okay, on any products. So even on the profits you are not having any taxes. You manufacture, you sell, you take whatever the money is coming to you. Okay. So people like to go to Saudi Arabia or have their facility set up over there. So there is no import duty or export taxes or like income tax or nothing. There is no kind of tax. Okay, even on the products sold. Okay, so it is like GST is applied over here. Earlier there was sales tax, then cess, then so many other things were there. So depending of the upon the product we used to have, but in some countries we don't have anything. But why people are not rushing to those places to have their facility? Because they need to check with other things as well, just not the taxes and all. Whether the required manpower is available to me, okay, whether the other laws, just not the taxes and tariffs, there could be other laws which would be opposing you, okay, to do it, and the kind of product what you are manufacturing, they it may not be allowed in that particular country, okay. So just not to use for manufacturing as well, okay. Then whether the raw material is available cheap over there. Sometimes it so happens that even if you want to get it over there, you are not allowed to do it. Okay, so these all things are there. Otherwise, people used to flock there, or companies used to go and flock there to have their facilities set up. But just not the tariffs or the government, the other laws as well as the infrastructure facilities, then the availability of raw materials, labor. We spoke about three kinds of labor: skilled, semi-skilled, and non-skilled labor. So all these categories are available. So what is the amount that you need to be paid, in terms of salaries and all? So all these things matter a lot. Okay, just by seeing one thing you cannot run. Then coming the following information ideally is available in making the design decision. So what all things I just told you, just not one of the laws. We need to check different things. So what are those different things that are being put out here? So location of supply sources and markets. Do I have the sources of getting my raw materials as and when I require, or is there any lead time, or should I import something which is not available here? So what I need to do? So check whether the sources of supply and the markets in the sense the products that you manufacture are sold nearby, okay, or I have to again transport it to the place where demand is there. So again there is cost that is involved, okay. So we are basically doing the same. We are like saving tax, but we are spending it on transportation. That should not happen. So you are again left with the same amount where you are in that particular country, but your responsiveness will increase over there. Your transportation time is required, your lead time increases. But if you are in the country or where the markets are, even if the amount is more, you are saving on the transportation and your responsiveness is higher. Okay, with respect to you having a facility in some other country and getting the product. Then location of facility sites, okay. So how many sites am I having, or how many facilities I am having, plus in how many more facilities, like places I can open my facilities, and how many more sites I can open my more facilities. So can I, is it allowed? Again, some of the countries they say you cannot have more number of factories also. So it is there. So we need to check the law of the land again. Then demand forecast by market. So how much is the demand? So even if you are in the market there, so if the demand is not there, then again you'll be incurring losses. So you need to check whether demand is there or not. Okay. Then facility, labor, and material cost by site. So how much of the facility will be costing me? Should I buy it or rent it? So whether the labor is cheap or costly, then what about the materials that I require to manufacture? So just not the raw materials, the spare parts and the machines if anything happens, and the personnel who take care of those particular machines. Okay, the technological advanced people, skilled labor, what we call. So it could be technologically or otherwise. Okay, so are they available? If available, what is the cost of acquiring? Okay, so all these needs to be taken care or seen earlier. Then transportation costs between each pair of sites. This is I am having multiple places, or it could be from my facility to the market. So what is the transportation cost? Whether it is high, or whether it is low, and what is the infrastructure. So whether the roads are good, do I have a docking facility, in the sense whether I am very near to the sea or oceans, so that I can transport my products to different countries or import anything that is required. Okay, so these things again needs to be seen. Then inventory costs by site and as a function of quantity. So do I have place? Okay, so if I want to store something, how big is the place, how many products I can basically keep over there, that is what is quantity. So how many I can store for how many days, to what kind of product it is, whether it is perishable, non-perishable, what is the life of the product. Okay, so all these things again need to be checked. Then sale price of product in different regions. So if you see, uh, take the example of iPhone. So why people tend to get it from different countries? Because it is available in cheaper prices in other countries than India because of taxes and other things. Okay, why? But in general, if you see, if somebody goes to Dubai or USA or some other place where the electronics are available in cheap, so many of you or you only might have asked your relative or the person who is going there to get a particular product, electronics product. So I gave example of iPhone because majorly iPhone is being imported, like asked to get it to India basically. Why? Because it is available at a cheaper price than in India. So that is what the sale price of the product in different regions, how it is, whether it is increased, whether it is decreased, why it is increasing, whether it is the gains to the company, more profits to the company or to the government. Okay, then taxes and tariffs. So import, export, we just spoke about all those things. Then transportation. So from one region to another region, we spoke about from one state to other state in India. Earlier it was there. If you want to enter, you need to pay taxes to them. Okay, whether you are passing by, that is different, or it is being sent to that particular state from one state to the other state. So state tax would be there, sales tax. Okay, that has to be paid. Again, it was different in different states. Okay, in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and all, it was 12.5%. So in other places, because I remember I had worked like in Chennai, so my manufacturing plant was in Karnataka. So I know these two places. There are other places like that I have heard of, like 14% is there, 14.5% is there. So in some places it's 10% also. So it depends. Okay. So that's why even you might see like people go to Pondicherry or Goa. Major reason is to have alcohol. Why? Because the uh, taxes on all those things is less. So again, the same reason, like the petrol prices are less. So as if you are staying in Belgaum, you would be knowing this. So if you are very near to Goa, what you do, you cross the border, you go, you get your fuel, and you come back. Because per liter it could be lesser by 10 rupees or 50 rupees also. So if you are going for a half tank or a full tank, you might save some 3 to 4 liters of petrol. Like if you are doing a full tank or all, like I'm talking about only bikes. If you go for four wheelers and all, you might save around 6 to 8 liters of petrol. I mean, price of petrol basically. So that is there. So if petrol prices and all comes under GST, again the prices would fall like hell. But as states are also getting and even center is also getting more money, they don't want to put it under GST. So other reasons are also there. So I cannot blatantly tell that they are getting more money, so they want it. Okay, so that could be one of the reasons, and there might be other reasons as well. Okay, then desired response time and other service factors. So desired service time. So you already know whether you need to be more responsive to react quickly to the changes or the demands, or you might take some time and other service factors. So if something happens to the product that you have done, so how are the returns? Okay, or is it repairable? You send your technician there. Okay, in terms of electronics or any other products. Okay, then if you buy some new product, like I'm giving you example now. If you buy some new electronic product, what happens? So the person who is selling you will tell, okay, take it and go home, or he'll arrange for that particular product to be sent to your home. Then it will be informed to the company that this particular person who is staying in this particular place has brought or bought your product. Then what they'll do, they'll send a technician to install as well as guide you how to use it. Okay, he will operate it and show it to you. So whether it is a fridge, because new technology has come, people needs to know how to use it. Okay, or a washing machine, or even a water filter nowadays, people are coming to install as well as show you how to use it basically. Okay, even TVs. Okay, new cable if you are taking. Okay, whether it is dish TV or a normal cable TV or Tata Sky, whatever, or if you take like your internet, now you are getting with TV connections also because of smart TV and all. So again, a person who is coming to install, he will show you how to use it, the procedure of using it. Okay, so which button does what, when to press what is the password. So do we need to put it multiple times, or he'll set it once and he'll give you the password and go out. So all these things are there. So these things, response time and the service factors, are very much related. Then phase two. So here we are directly starting with phase two, as I told you earlier. So network optimization models. What happens here during phase two of the network design? A manager considers regional demand. So directly we are going to region, because we are not worried about the objectives and why we are basically doing it. We are directly coming to a particular region. Okay. So in phase two, region. Phase three, different sites. In phase four, exact site in which I want to build my facility. So in phase two, the region. So what all should be there in a region? During phase two of the network design, a manager considers regional demand, tariffs, economies of scale, and aggregate factor cost to decide the regions in which facilities are to be located. Okay, so what all need to be taken care of? Regional demand, whether there is a particular demand of my product, tariff. Okay, so what are the taxes and other tariffs? Then economies of scale. So if I buy something in bulk, then will the cost of production go down? So this is economies of scale. Can I achieve it? And aggregator factor. Aggregator in the sense people who buy in bulk and later on pass it further in the supply chain to be sold to the end user. So you can call them as a stockist or a distributor. Okay, so these are aggregators. So what kind of aggregating cost is there? Okay, so these things you need to take care. Then during phase two, the manager must consider these quantifiable trade-offs along with non-quantifiable factors such as competitive environment and political risk. Okay, so other things what we just spoke about can be quantified. Okay, in a sense we can put them in a particular numbers, but there are some factors which are non-quantifiable, like competitiveness. So how many competitors are there? You can have a quantitative numbers, like there are 5 competitors or 10 competitors in the market, but how they are working cannot be put in numbers, right? So the competitive environment of that particular region and the political risk. Okay, these all things we'll consider in the story. Okay, so that's why I'm telling you like how it works. So in general, in a particular region, I'm taking a particular country and I'm trying to explain you all these environments, political environment, then the competitive environment. Okay, so we'll try to correlate all these things in a particular story. Okay, then network optimization models are useful for managers considering regional configuration during the phase two. So network optimization models in the sense, can I improve my particular model? Okay, these particular decisions are taken by managers who are taking care of those particular what do you call models, or those particular supply chain units or links. Okay, then the first step is to collect the data in the form that can be used for a quantitative model. In the sense, like okay, cost of transportation, usually it will be per product or it will be per load. Okay, something they'll make it into one unit. Okay, then it will be multiplied into number of units or number of like loads. For example, if one truck is going, it is called as one load. So you fill it fully half, or you send it like empty. So you need to pay that much, like for the driver as well as for the petrol and for the maintenance of that particular truck if it is going once. Okay, so if you fill it to the brim or you send it empty, so you need to pay. So that is what is like per what do you call transportation unit per load. So we'll say okay, so much of money is there involved. So if I want to transport my raw materials from different countries, so per unit of my raw material will cost so much. So it will be divided. So they can get it in bulk, but whatever the cost is there, they'll divide it into the number of products they are getting, or the number of pieces that are there. So per piece, what is the cost? Okay, so like this we are getting all the things in quantitative way, that is where I can put it in numbers so that it is easy for me to calculate. Okay, then there are fixed as well as variable costs. You already know, we have talked about it, associated with facilities, transportation and inventories at each facility. No need to emphasize much, we have just seen it. Then going to the phase 3. So what is phase 3? Now we are looking at different sites in that region. So now we have already found out the region where. So region in general they are telling you region, but in which country. So if I want to generalize or to be more specific, I could say which particular country. Okay, so they are generalizing and saying it as region. So like if you are taking a huge region like okay Middle East or the uh, Asian region or the African continent, or it could be Australia or US or Latin America, something like this. So region where there are many countries. So Asia, if you see, there are around 10 to 12 countries which are there in Asia. Okay, so in Asia, if you want to be, in which country you want to have. So again, you need to check into all the tariffs, then the government, then the demand, how big is the market. Okay, even the economy of that particular country matters. So if we are getting a very what do you call it, a product that is more of what do you call cost, okay, or luxurious product. I can put it in this way, luxurious product. So if you see a place or a country where people are fighting for food, okay, like most of the African countries, so they are fighting for food. So do you think if you launch your iPhone over there, if you are a manufacturer or a distributor of iPhone, if you think that okay, it is not there in many African countries, so if you go and launch there, will the people be able to buy? They are not having food to eat. Okay, so there are countries that are that poor, so will they be able to buy your iPhones? Okay, so I don't think so. So again, you can say a particular region, but we need to take care of or look into all these particular points. Okay, then, as a preliminary step, the manager needs to identify the geographic location where potential sites may be considered. Like, for example, if I finalize a particular region as India, now in India I need to locate a particular sites now. So, in which state I want to be, or I am looking at multiple states. Okay, just after states, it will not end. So, in state, which place. Okay, whether like for take Karnataka as example, whether I need to be in Bangalore, in Mysore, in Mangalore, in Belgaum, okay, or in Chitradurga. So there are so many places. Okay, just as an example, I cannot give you all the state like districts here, but I gave you some of the districts. So which place in Karnataka now? So like for example, take Belgaum. So where in Belgaum? North side, south side, east, west, in a particular outside the city, outskirts of the city. So where exactly? Okay. So that is what we are doing now in this particular third phase. So we are identifying different places in the region. So where I want to go, or where could be my facility probably set up. So what are the hotspots in where my facility could be set up so that I'll get more profit. Okay. Or trade-off between profitability and the responsiveness. Then gravity models are used to find locations that minimize the cost of transportation, raw materials from suppliers, and finished goods to the market served. So even I have to check on transportation, it should be less for both getting raw material as well as transporting the finished goods to the market. then gravity models assume that both the markets and their supply sources can be located as grid points on a plane. Okay, all distances are calculated as the geometric distance between 2 points on a plane. Okay, so I'll not go much deep into this, but I'll explain in general. So if my facility is here, I'll take this particular point as my origin. So from here, how far I need to go in all the directions to get different things. So whether it is raw material or transporting my finished product to the market. Okay, so as taking a midpoint as my facility, how far I need to move in all the directions. Okay, that is what they are telling you. Geometric distance between 2 points on a plane. So I don't want to go how a aeroplane is designed. Okay, so there they'll take at one place. So most of the things are there, like center of gravity. So what load to be put where? So where are the engines? Okay, how to balance. So similar things are done here. Okay, to balance all the things like how far I need to go to get raw materials. Is there any other person who is like able to send me or get me the raw materials in cheaper price, or if he is increasing the price and it is less than the transportation cost included, then I would be happy to buy here, right? So you are saving that particular time to get it plus the transportation cost. So you will be in profits in both. You are saving time as well as money. So by paying little more than what you used to pay from getting the raw material from a longer distance. So this is what in phase 3. Then in phase 4, network optimization models. So what is network optimization? So you have put it now. So we are trying to tweak it so that it is optimized. So how to do it? During phase 4, a manager decides on the location and capacity allocation for each facility. Just not the location, but the capacity, how much to be produced, or we'll be even looking at the maximum production capability. Okay, so if we are having maxi like a particular capacity, so it may not be optimal to run that particular facility at that particular level. Okay, unless it is very necessary. Okay, means in the sense, best example I can give is your two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. Okay, it can go up to 140 or 200 kilometers speed, but will you use that? Always you drive at 180 or 200 or 220 or 230, whatever the maximum speed is. So that is the maximum capacity. So will you drive your vehicle at that? So you know your vehicle goes till that particular speed, but will you drive? That is the major point here. So it depends on where you are. So you might go up to a certain point if the road is empty and you are on a highway. So can you be able to reach half of that speed inside city? Okay, where more vehicles are there, people are coming in between, so you need to take so many turns. Okay, the roads are small, too many vehicles are there, congestion is there. So can you reach that particular capacity? So what you do, you try to get the optimum out of whatever is available with you. Okay, optimum may not necessarily be the maximum amount only, or reach the maximum capacity that can be worked. Okay, so if you are in urgency or some medical emergency is there, okay, then you can drive at a faster rate. Okay, but for a normal time you will not use it because you are putting more load on your particular vehicle, plus the chances of you getting into an accident will be more. Okay, so we usually not hit the highest point. Okay, we try to find out the optimum point. So that's why on your in your car or in your two-wheeler there is something called as economy range. Okay, so if you run your vehicle at that particular range, you are getting more output. Okay, for the less number of or less amount of fuel that you are burning. Okay, so if you go at the higher end, so the heat increases and your fuel will not give that efficiency. If you are going at a very low speed, okay, so where you could have gone at a higher speed with the same amount, you are going at very low speed of particular vehicle. So again, your efficiency is not reached. So they will give you somewhere in between. Okay, it's between the lowest and the highest where you are getting the maximum output. Okay, per liter of petrol. So if you take again per liter, why you take per unit? That is the unit. We usually take per liter. So what is the mileage of a particular car or a bike? तो इसे it is per liter. तो 60 देता है, 70 देता है, 30 देता है, 20 देता है. In terms of cars and all, it is 15, 20, 25, up to 30 for smaller cars. They have achieved now up to 30 kilometers. What is this 30 kilometers? So without saying, you will be knowing 30 kilometers per liter. So it is calculated per liter. Okay, so that is what is we are telling about the optimization. Okay, then plant capacities, market demand, variable production and transportation cost per 1,000 units shipped. So I was talking to you about per unit. So here you can say transportation cost per 1,000 units shipped, because we are not the, like, the companies are not the end user, they are the manufacturers. They cannot like for shipping and all, or for transportation they cannot say per unit. Okay, if you are a stockist or a distributor, you can say okay per unit. Or if you are like too much emphasis could be given per unit by the end user, because he is buying in less quantity. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, he will buy in less quantity than the retailer, and the retailer will buy in less quantity than his distributor. The distributor will buy less than the manufacturer, how much he is producing. Okay, so a manufacturing company might have like hundreds of distributors. Then those hundreds of distributors might be having hundreds of retailers under them. Then hundreds of liters retailers will be having thousands of customers. Okay, that's how it goes. Okay, so it will be tens or hundreds of distributors. Then under them there could be thousands of retailers. So for thousands of retailers, there could be lakhs of customers. Okay, just for example point of view, I'm giving you. So, cost per 1,000 unit shipped and fixed cost per month at each plant are to be considered. So, how much are fixed cost per month for that particular facility you are basically using? So, at this particular time, people are in loss even after they shut down the facility. Why? One is the opportunity loss, that is, they could have produced and sold in the market, but in this pandemic time where lockdown is there, people are not able to start the factory, but the fixed overheads are as it is. So you need to pay the employees, you need to pay for the facility. Okay, so you need to, again, the depreciation is always there, plus there could be so many other fixed costs which are involved in production. Okay, these are general, which will be in every place. Okay, in every factory or in every facility these things are there, but there could be other fixed costs based on the product and what kind of facility it is are there. Okay, so this is phase 4. Then we are like in the brink of finishing the third module. Okay, so or we have already finished the third module, I could say. We have finished the third module. I said brink because I was about to tell you the story related to this. And also it is related to the next module also. So we'll just check on next module what we will be learning. Okay, this is syllabus for module 4. What it is: supply chain optimization model, impact of uncertainty on network design. The word uncertainty is important here. So as and when we are going through this, I'll explain what is uncertainty. Then network design. So network design using decision trees. So many of you might have learned decision tree in different subjects. So we'll see how it is used, decision trees. Then planning, demand, multiple item, multiple location, inventory management, and pricing and revenue management. So this is the syllabus for module 4. So this will be looking into the next module. So now coming to the, okay, I'll take around 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes max in telling you this particular story. Okay, so this particular country, okay, which I am talking of, was in in some decades ago. I can say some decades because it is now around 25 to 30 years now. Before that particular time, this particular country was like included in the top 10 richest countries in the world. Okay, so in the present situation, it is in the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Okay, so I'm talking about the country Venezuela. So you might have heard about this. Okay, many people or many students might know about this as well, but there are many students who don't know about this particular country. So this particular country is situated in Latin America. Okay, Latin America, in the sense South America, I can say. So if you see on the map, there is USA, which is also called as North America. So it has the USA, then Canada. Okay, the north part. In the south part, we are having many countries, and on the topmost or the edge of that particular, just next to USA, we are having Venezuela, which is also called as Latin America. Okay, this is a country where around 17% of the whole world's, okay, oil reserves are there in this particular country. Okay, because of the oil only, they were one of the richest. Okay, in the like the top 10 richest countries in the world. But presently, they are the top 10. They are in the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Okay, why? I'll tell you what happened and all. Okay, so you need to understand the prime minister or the president, what you call the person who runs the country. He came into power in 1993. Okay, he was sorry, not 1993, 1999 to 2013. This particular person by name Hugo Chavez. Okay, he was the person who was leading or the uh, person who was taking care of the country, basically the president. Okay, Hugo Chavez. So what he did to be in the power, as even I just want to emphasize, so this particular country has more oil reserves than Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is having around 12%. So this particular country alone has 17% of the total world's oil. Okay, so just imagine. So a particular time was there in 1970s. I am talking about the top 10. What I told you, top 10 richest country was in 1970s. Okay, so later on, as time progressed, these people like their main work was to sell the oil to crude oil. Basically, it will not be the oil that is directly used; it is crude oil. So out of this particular crude oil, we are extracting. Okay, your petrol, diesel, kerosene, then fuel that is used in aviation, everything comes from this particular crude oil only. It is at a different level, so it is called as cracking. Some of you might be knowing. It is called as cracking. So where the process of removing different parts from this particular crude oil. So basically, the work of this particular people in Venezuela or the government was to sell oil. Okay, they focused only on selling oil and nothing else. So if you see in those particular days up to 2013, the oil rate went on increasing. Okay, so because these were the people who sold oil to the entire uh, the globe. Okay, at the time of World War One and Two, at that particular time, this was the most richest country, you can say, like how Saudi Arabia and all the Middle Eastern countries are there. So it was something like that. So what happened suddenly in 2013? Okay, somewhere not in 2013, in 2001, I guess, 2001, 2. What happened is suddenly the price of this particular oil or the crude oil fell like anything. Okay, so it went up to $100 a barrel. Okay, $100 a barrel it went. So at that time it was the most prosperous country. Then what happened? Later on, it slowly started falling. So there was a big fall suddenly. From $100 it went to $80 or $70. Then eventually the fall continued and it reached around $33 a barrel. Okay, but what happened here? These people they did not diversify to anything. Okay, they did not go into manufacturing. They did not go into any other product. They were just focused on oil, and that too how focused in the sense they were not even improving the oil rigs. Okay, the president, what I told you, this person, what he did, he was looked upon as God. Why? Because he subsidized everything basically. Okay, and what he told was, I will give you employment. Okay, so what these people did was, if something private people come into this, so it will not be helpful for the government. So what they did, they kept everything under the rule of government. Okay, there are no private players and all. So everything that was there was under government. So people who used to work or get some jobs, they used to get government jobs, and these were the highest paid ones, okay, in the country. Then sellers or any other people. Okay, so when you compare them, so the public, the government jobs were the highest paid jobs, and wherever there was no vacancy. So usually, what happens if there is a vacancy, then you give a job, right? So what president said, so if there is no vacancy, also you take all the people, you ask them to come in the morning, put their attendance, and ask them to go back in the evening, whether they are working or not, they will be paid. Okay, what happened suddenly? The unemployment rate went down, and even people require the same, right? Why do people want to work? They want to go, put the attendance, roam around here and there, evening go home. And he subsidized everything. Okay, so even the oil prices there, if you see, it is 1 rupee 50 paise of Indian rupees. Okay, 1 rupee 50 paise you are getting 1 liter of oil, I mean petrol or diesel over there in Venezuela. So I have not come anywhere near presently, but what happened here is this particular person Hugo Chavez, what he did is he subsidized everything, even from food to clothing, everything. Okay, he subsidized. So the subsidy was so much that it went below the cost price, in the sense the cost of production what is required, right? So selling price will be more than that, because of the profits. So he subsidized so much that it went below the selling price went below the cost price. So who used to put the money there? So it was government who used to put the money, because it was under government. So all the private players who were there, they stopped everything. Everything was stopped. There was nothing that was manufactured, because whatever manufacturing cost was there, you would not recover, right? Because the cost price was greater than the selling price. So now a state came where these people came to know that yes, they are not will be able to continue. But what these people did, or what this particular president did was, he got more and more money from outside in the form of debt. Okay, in the form of debt he got, and he wanted to continue whatever the subsidies and all were given to the people. Okay, so now what was happening? The price of the barrel fell. Okay, excuse me, they were not getting more profits, but the subsidies were continuing. Like the government was not having money, they were borrowing from all the countries. Okay, because people, like all the countries were not knowing that this particular thing is happening. They said like, okay, oil is there, so they can do whatever they want. So they are taking more money to build infrastructure, build houses. Free houses were donated to the people. Okay, so it became like that, where people were not ready to work. Okay, because all was given to them for free. So how much, or how many days, or how many years will this work? So there was a time where this particular president Hugo Chavez, he died. Okay, in 2013 this particular person died. So he is right hand man. Next person, Nicolas Maduro. In 2013 he became the president. So he is termed as the worst president. Why? Because he tried to stop all these things, but many things he couldn't. Because again he wanted to be in the ruling party, or his party should be there. He wants to be the president. Okay, he tried, but he couldn't stop it. Okay, then one great mistake he did, which brought the economy, you can say, in negatives. Okay, how? I'll tell you. So he started printing money. Okay, he started printing money. So he wanted money to pay all the debts, right? All the debts, and to maintain whatever services were given by the government. So he started printing money like anything. Okay, as a government, you are having power to print money. Okay, so if even India can do it, right? So they can start printing money just like that. So what happens if you just start printing money and start donating everything? So many people, or each and every person in the country will be rich. In the sense, everyone will be having money. So if I want to buy something today, the price of water bottle is 10 rupees or 20 rupees per liter. If I am having a lot of money, okay, so I can, instead of buying it at 20 rupees, I'll buy it at 40 rupees, because the demand is more, no. Okay, because as I'm having more money, and it is just coming just like that. So instead of thinking, okay, whether it is worth that much or not, I will not think about it. I'll just say, if somebody is buying, my ego comes in between. Now I'll say, instead of buying at 20, I'll buy it at 25. Then the other person is also getting for free, right? What you'll do, instead of 25, I'll make it 30. So as a seller, the person who gives me more money, I'll sell it to him. Okay. So this is what is called as inflation. Inflation, not exactly what I told you. Inflation is, I'll tell you now, what is inflation? Inflation is the cost of products increasing or the value of your currency decreasing. Okay, to buy a certain product, how it will increase. So if I say 20 rupees per liter of bottle, if it becomes 25 tomorrow, what has happened? The cost of the price has increased, or the amount, the buying capacity of that particular currency has gone down. So this is what is inflation. In general, in India, we had seen like the worst was around 9% of inflation. Okay, so these people were not in inflation. Inflation. These people were in hyperinflation. Okay, hyperinflation in the sense. So what I told you, this 4% or 8% or 9% is every year 9% of the cost was increasing. So that's how you need to take. Okay, so here it was hyperinflation. So initially it was less, then it went up to 80,000%. Okay, 80,000% inflation. So around every 60 days, the price was doubling. Like for example, a cost of one chocolate was around $1 in a particular date. For take example, today was around $1. So after 60 days, it became $2. Next, after 60 days, it became $4. Then after 60 days, it became $8. So it was doubling in 60 days. Then worst came. So presently, I think around 4 lakh percent. 4 lakh percent is the inflation rate. So every around 20 days, it is doubling now. The, today, if the cost of chocolate is one, okay, I'll just tell you the currency. It is called as bolivars. So the currency of Venezuela is bolivar, BOLIVAR, bolivar. So if you are getting particular coffee, take I'll change the example. Take coffee, you are getting it one bolivar. So just after 20 days, it becomes two. Then 20 days it becomes 4. Then 20 days it becomes 8. Then 20 days it becomes 16. So like this, it has gone up to, I cannot tell you. So it has gone up to that height. Okay. So you will be amazed to see. Okay. So you will see, okay, in India is the richest country when you compare. So you might have thought of, okay, the Indian's currency is not that high. But 1 rupee, 1 Indian rupee, okay, presently I'm talking about, is equivalent to 42,400 bolivars. 1 rupee of India. 1 rupee of India. If you go and exchange it over there, they will give you 42,400 rupees for 1 rupee. So just imagine for $1 how much it could be. Okay. So presently I'll take around 73 rupees. So 73 into 42,400. So if you just give $1, you are getting that much amount of money. So if you want to buy one cup of coffee or one meal, so if you are like buying it in bolivars, you need to take a huge bag of rupees, a huge bag of rupees, and you need to give them for just one coffee. So how bad? So this bad is the condition there. So people, you could say there are again places where it is good and places where it is worst. Okay, it is one of the dangerous countries they say in the world. So if you see the greenery and the falls, the tallest falls in the whole world is in Venezuela. Okay, but you might think that okay, I can visit for some particular holiday or so. So it is one of the dangerous countries. I want to warn you. Okay, it is one of the dangerous countries where people can stab you wherever you stand. Okay, for the money that you have. Okay, so there in red light, okay, red light in the sense in the traffic light, when it is red, when the traffic light is red, people will be very afraid to stop their vehicle. They'll just run off. They'll like jump the red light, what we call in English, jump the red light in the sense even the light is red, the traffic light is red, you are just moving, you are not stopping because a time, not a time, even in today, if you want to stop, a particular driver sees all around. Okay, as and when a particular vehicle stops at that particular red light, there would be people who used to come and hit and take all the amount, or even they throw the driver and take the car also. So that was the condition, okay, in some places of Venezuela. So it is very good in terms of the forest, the falls. There are so many animals, okay, over there. Many species are there, but because of the mismanagement, one thing, just one thing, uncontrollable printing of money. So you can ask me, sir, what about India? So in India, if you see, you can see on any note, okay, it is written and signed by the RBI governor, stating that I'll give you the sum of money equivalent to whatever the amount is, like it is 10 rupees, 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 100 rupees. So the RBI states that I will give you worth of this particular 10 rupees. Why? Because as and when the particular currency is printed in India, the amount equivalent to that particular money of gold is been kept in the reserves. Okay, if something happens, okay, the gold is there as reserves, which is equivalent to the amount. So if you take 100 rupees, the 100 rupees of worth of gold, if you print today 100 rupees, 100 rupees worth of gold is kept in the lockers of RBI. So that's how our currency is getting the value. So it is equivalent to gold. Okay, that much of gold is kept in the reserves of RBI. But in many other countries, as I told you, like in Venezuela only, so there is nothing. There was nothing to give value to that particular note. Okay. Then later on, what happened? This particular person, that is Nicolas Maduro, who came afterwards. So the hyperinflation went so high that he came up with a new currency. Okay, Sovan Bolivar. So the name remains the same, Sovan Bolivar. So where he reduced five zeros in front. Okay, so if you are getting 500 rupees now, so you need to add that five zeros in front. Okay, so he removed that and he came up with a new currency called as Soliver. What was that? Again, Bolivar only. I just forgot that particular term. Okay, leave it. So Sovereign Bolivar, Sovereign Bolivar. So he removed that five zeros in front. Now, if you are giving 1 rupee, that means you are giving 1 lakh. Okay, that is how he made. So the sovereign bolivar is equal to 1 lakh bolivars. One sovereign bolivar is equal to 1 lakh bolivars. So if you are giving one bolivar, it is equal to 1 lakh. So he reduced five zeros in front, but still the inflation is not stopping because of that hyperinflation which was created. Okay, so everything collapsed. Okay, so 50% of the medicines, even if you say I'll pay you the amount whatever is there, so it is not available in Venezuela. 50%, just imagine. So here some things are not available, we are impacted so much. Just imagine, 50% of the medicines are not available. Just imagine how the medical system would be over there. People are fighting for food. Okay, so once a nation which was counted in the top 10 richest in the world to this, okay, just because of mismanagement, not taking care of the oil rigs. Okay, then due to political issues, so earlier America used to buy around 5 lakh barrels, okay, per year. Then due to political issues and all, it's sanctioned. Okay, so even now India is buying some of its oil from Venezuela. Okay, so just imagine how much the price of 1 liter is. 1 rupee 50 paise of Indian rupee. You will be getting 1 liter of petrol or diesel over there. So that cheap is the oil because that much of reserves are there, but they are not able to sell it due to various things. So sanctions were put on by like US, where it says the allies of US, the countries which are supporting US, will not buy oil from Venezuela. And there are many countries which are like trying to be against USA, like Russia or China. They want to have their military bases in Venezuela, and as it is very near, okay, it is like India and Sri Lanka, so not that close, a bit far, because it is this particular Venezuela and the USA or the Canada that comes, so it is very near. It is just some sea is there in between, which is splitting these two countries. So basically the Russia and China, they want to have their military bases there so that they can keep an eye on USA, or in at times of war they can directly attack USA from that particular place. So they want to have their own military base over there. But US is trying to avoid all these things because it is, if somebody their enemy comes and sits over there, it is a threat to USA, right? So they'll do whatever is required to stop these people from having a military base, even China or Russia, to come and have a military base over there. Okay, this is a small story. This is a real story again. Why I'm telling you is, you need to check what kind of government it is, what kind of rules they are making. So just imagine, with one wrong move, a country which was very prosperous came to rags. Okay, so do you want to go and have your facility over there? So if you just see earlier, okay, it is one of the richest. I want to go and have my factory over there. The amount, okay, like the government spends on the subsidies and all other stuff, okay, is very high. So if you had seen that time, and if you had you had went there to Venezuela and had your factories, it would be very, very, very difficult now in the present condition. So we need to check the stability, what kind of government it is, what kind of rules they are making. Will it affect my facility, or will it affect my company? Will it affect my production? So how will I get? So it is very good. You can fly through aeroplane. You can go through ships. So all the facilities are available, but the stability is not there. Okay, the particular country's currency has lost its value completely. Okay, so in many places, if you see in many stores or many restaurants there, they will not or like accept bolivars. They'll accept some other currency. Because, for example, today I have taken a certain bolivar for certain product. So after 20 days or 30 days, it will be double. But if I take it the same amount in equivalent bolivars of Indian currency, or Indian currency will not work over there. But in terms of the dollars, so if I take dollars, even if it is increasing, my amount is increased over here. But if I am taking bolivar today, if you are having 100 bolivars, so if you are getting certain product, so after 20 days, the 100 bolivars will be 100 bolivars only. But you need to pay extra 100 to buy the same product after 20 days or 30 days. Okay, so this is the condition presently that is going on in Venezuela. So there are so many case studies you can check in different medias. So even in Facebook or even in YouTube, we are getting videos on this particular Venezuelan crisis. What happened, how it was, okay, from when it came to how. So if you see again, similar issue was done by Zimbabwe. Okay, so where they printed a lot of money. Okay, the inflation went up to 3 crore percent. Just imagine, it was like every second day the price was doubling of the product. Every second day. Since today it was something, tomorrow it will be the same, like not same. It will be like half the percent more. Then the next day, every third day, it was doubling. Okay, so it was that pathetic because of reckless decisions taken to print money as much as required. Okay, there were instances where I've seen photos where people used to work for a day, they used to get money in a cart. Okay, in a cart full of money, they used to take run to the stores because the price was changing that fast. They used to take it and run to the shops, and with all that money, it was very difficult for them to get a pound of bread. Okay, again there was a lot of violence to get 1 pound of bread. Just imagine how the situation would be. So when compared to India, we are better off. Okay, we are very much in a good condition when compared to such countries. Okay, with this I would like to end the session for today. Okay, it's almost 9:51 10. Okay, so we'll stop our